This is The Naked Patient, Beyond the Operating Room. Listen as Dr. Nicholas Howland talks with real patients about their real experiences with plastic surgery.
Hello and welcome to the Naked Patient Podcast. I'm Dr. Nicholas Howland. With me today, one of my very dear friends. I finally get her on the podcast, Whitney Rose.
Hi, Nick.
Hey, how are you?
Am I allowed to call you Am I calling you Nick or Dr. Howland in here?
Annie, you know what I was telling this to my friend the other day. I love that my close friends that come on, because everybody that's been on here is a patient, and almost every one of them calls me Nick.
Calls you Nick?
Yeah, and I kind of like that. I like that I am friends with my patients.
Yeah.
It's without crossing any weird boundaries.
Right. Well, that's honestly, I think it speaks a lot to your character, because prior to meeting you, I went to many consultations, as you know, and that was your bedside manner and you as a person and how you showed up, your presence. That's why I ultimately ended up picking you as my doctor.
Thank you.
And then the friend thing just became an added bonus.
It did. Absolutely. So people obviously know you from Real Housewives of Salt Lake fame. I did not know you before that. You were on my friend Jimmy's podcast though.
Yes.
And Jimmy owns a studio. What did you guys talk? Was that before Real Housewives?
I went on Jimmy's podcast, I think, right before it aired or right as season 1 was airing.
Okay.
I remember it was still like during the pandemic, like lockdown days. He actually came to my house.
Yeah.
So it had to have been like right as season 1 was airing.
Do you remember what you guys talked about? Just all that?
All that. We talked about Housewives, how I got on Housewives. We talked about my business, a lot about entrepreneurism and just the dynamic, because he knows my stepson, Austin.
Yeah.
So we just talked a lot about my family, business, Housewives, all of that.
Oh, I know Austin.
Briefly touching on Mormonism, growing up in Utah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you know Austin? Yeah. He's doing some stuff for me right now.
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, I'm having him rebrand like my whole thing.
Yes, go.
And he's going to do some apparel. We're going to have Howland's Housewives t-shirts.
Hell yes. Can I get one of those?
Absolutely. We're going to have a hat that says titties on it, like in the Titleist writing with the Howland logo on the side of it.
I'm going to need one of those too.
Yeah, we got you.
Can I be founding member of the Housewives?
I think
Howland's
you are.
Housewives? I am.
You absolutely are. So Howland's Housewives came from our surgery with you. And I was like, oh my gosh, how great would it be if we just, I think I put it up as a hashtag, like when we announced your surgery that we had done it. It was hashtag Howland's Housewives.
Did you ever think that one of your patients' boobs would be like such a big deal? I mean,
never.
I get Christmas cards of them sent to me. I get people asking me in my DMs every time there's an episode that airs. People ask me where I went.
Oh my gosh.
How many cc's? What brand? What? So luckily I have my little card that you gave me.
And you just pass that on.
Well, I just like take a picture of the cc's and the brand and send them your number. And
listen, your surgery was not so. When Whitney came to me, you had great results already.
Yes.
Like your surgeon had done a very good augmentation. Mm-hmm. Your biggest complaint though was you wanted to wear shirts without a bra, and you wanted to figure out how to get the cleavage and the upper pole fullness without wearing a bra.
Yeah.
And so we didn't really do a crazy change. We took the implants out that you had in, put in implants with higher cohesivity gel, so the gel doesn't settle as much, tightened your pocket, and that was it.
Boom. And the icons were born.
Yeah, all of a sudden, it's an entire episode of Real Housewives.
An entire season.
It was. That whole second season.
Second season was like my breasts were a major topic.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever forget, what's his name, motorboating the cake of your breasts.
I will never forget him eating the nipple.
Oh my gosh.
Will you stop licking that, please?
Tell me that was not scripted.
That was not scripted. I actually, for Seth's birthday, I surprised him with that cake because I thought it would be a funny joke to be like, hey, you talked a lot about it. Here's a mouthful. Shut up. Mm-hmm. But I never expected him to like dive into the cake. No.
Yeah. And he still hasn't reached out to thank me.
No. And the other thing, when I came to you, I was really nervous because I wanted to tighten up my abs. I had, how do you say it? The
diastasis.
Yeah.
Rectus diastasis.
Yeah. Because I mean, I'm really fit. I work out. Fitness is a big part of my life. And it didn't matter what I was doing. My stomach just always bulged.
Yeah. So we did a mini abdominoplasty, which we're actually going to revise. And we fixed your rectus diastasis. Did you, I think a big myth out there that gets told is that fixing that does not change your core strength. But almost every one of my patients tells me it completely changes it.
Oh, I can do pull-ups now.
Yeah, I love that.
And that has nothing to do with your arms. That's all your core. Like I feel so much stronger. It took me a minute to relearn my balance. That was kind of a weird, like the mobility.
Yeah.
Just, I think, because it was like the mobility and flexibility was gone for a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm so much stronger. I can do pull-ups now.
Oh my gosh.
I could never do them before.
I love that.
I'd always have to have like an assistance or a machine.
Yeah, almost every one of my patients, so insurance won't cover it, right? And insurance says we don't cover this because it doesn't actually improve your health or your well-being. And every single patient tells me their core strength is better.
Well, it increased my strength and it actually made my stomach feel a lot better. Like when you consider like bloating, things like that, like I was more comfortable after.
Interesting.
So I think that insurance definitely should cover it because when you have a baby, those muscles are damaged. It's just like a broken bone, right?
Yeah.
But it's just muscles. What else?
Yeah.
Is
Well,
it
just stretches the muscles apart, and all of a sudden you're weak there.
like when you really think about it, it's crazy what women go through.
I know.
To get a baby here.
And that's why we call them mommy. I hate the term mommy makeover, because I think it's a little isolating, but it does make sense. I mean, moms go through a lot to have kids, and it can destroy bodies. And so mommy makeover makes a lot of sense.
What about mommy's comeback?
I like mommy's comeback. One of my colleagues coined or talks about mommy takeover, which I actually really like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Mommy comeback is good.
Mommy's comeback.
I like the daddy do-over. We do daddy do-overs sometimes. But like they don't really...
What's a daddy do-over? Just like the same thing?
Same thing, like a male tummy tuck, some lipo on the chest. But theirs is all sympathy weight gain. They don't have to go through anything actually physical.
Well, in all fairness, you men have to go through the emotional warfare.
This is true. This is true. So
pregnancy hormones.
My marriage,
Postpartum.
my first kid, we had, my ex-wife and I had, right after we got married, she was like, oh, I have endometriosis and I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to have kids. And my doctor said, if we ever want kids, we have to start trying right away. And this was literally like 6 months into my marriage. She had a laparoscopy to kind of clear out the endometriosis. She got put on, what's it called? Clomid.
Clomid.
And she got put on Lupron. And Lupron, so Clomid like stimulates the ovaries. Lupron like shuts down the whole system. It basically puts you in medically induced menopause. Oh. And it's kind of like turning off the switch, like turning off the computer and then turning it back on. And so I'm this newlywed Mormon kid who is 6 months in, and my wife is in medically induced menopause. And I remember we would have moments where she's like, I don't know why I'm crying and why I'm angry with you.
How old were you?
But I am 23.
And how old was she?
21. Very typical, like young Mormon
But so you're just
relationship.
barely learning how to live with a woman.
Oh, yeah.
And now you have to deal with this.
Yeah. So we went through that for 3 years. And we finally, and like I had to go in and get tested. We did all these tests, and we finally got to a point where the doctor was like, well, you can do in vitro, or it's just not going to happen. We don't know. And in vitro at that point, it's still expensive, but at that time, 15 years ago, it was really expensive. And so we were like, well, kids may not be in the stars for us. We'll just adopt. And it's funny because we were looking for a new car at the time.
Were you in Texas?
This is still in Utah.
Still in Utah.
I was doing undergrad and I was getting ready to go to medical school.
I'm trying to like paint the picture in my head.
Yeah. So this is, oh my gosh. We were in Daybreak too. We were like phase 1 of Daybreak before it blew up. We were renting this townhome. And so we needed a new car. And we were shopping around. We're thinking, well, maybe like a midsize SUV, especially if we're going to have kids. And when it was obvious that we're not having kids, we said, let's get something smaller. And Acura had just made the TSX. I don't know if you remember the Acura TSX.
Is that a 2-seater?
It's a 4-seater, but it's like a sexier sedan. Okay. It was like a little sportier, sexy sedan. And I was like, oh, I love this car. So we were like, well, let's just do it. So we buy that car. 2 weeks later, she's pregnant.
That's how the universe works.
Yes. And so that's how Isabel, my daughter, came into being. And she was born right after I graduated, finished undergrad. And so we went to med school and had a brand new baby right at the start of med school.
And a brand new sports car.
That was too small for our family.
Could you even get a car seat in it?
Barely. Yeah, we barely would get a car seat in it. And, God, why did I tell that story? Oh, so we went hormones, and we went through all of that to get to her. And yeah, I went through nothing. I mean, I dealt with the hormones, but I put on some sympathy weight.
Yeah, as you should. I mean, that's part of the process.
Yeah.
But it's like, there's no way to explain what it feels like, what you go through, especially in your ex-wife's, situation where you have to work really hard to get a baby, hormone treatment, all of that, like that wrecks a lot, and it takes a long time to balance back out.
Yeah. All right, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So has anybody named their child after you?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. So our daughter, this is going to be a little embarrassing to admit, but our daughter, her name's Isabel. When she was born, we had 2 options. One was Isabel and one was Gabrielle. Both after our favorite TV shows at the time.
What were the shows?
Isabel was Grey's Anatomy, which was what's-her-face's character. I can't remember her name. She's like from Utah. The blonde girl Izzy on the show. And then Gabrielle was Eva Longoria from Desperate Housewives.
Oh, I love Desperate Housewives. That's amazing.
So now somebody's going to name their kid after you.
After a celebrity.
Whitney Houston.
Whitney Houston. My name actually, so my daughter's name is Bobby.
Yeah.
My mom, when she was pregnant with me, she wanted to name me Bobby Joanna, Bobby Joe. And my dad was obsessed with Whitney Houston, and they went to a Whitney Houston concert down here. No, they're up in Salt Lake. I was born in Provo. They were at the concert, and my mom went into labor.
Oh my gosh. At the Whitney Houston concert.
At the Whitney Houston concert. And I was breech, so it was kind of a whole situation. They rushed down to Provo Hospital and had me, and my dad convinced my mom to name me Whitney. And then my mom always told me that story, so since I was a little girl, I would name all my dolls Barbies Bobby. So now I have my Bobby Rose.
I love that.
Whitney and Bobby.
She's a sweetheart too. I've met Bobby.
She's a star.
Yeah, absolutely she is.
Yeah.
And so you have how many kids?
I have 2 kids with Justin, Bobby and Brooks. Bobby is 12. Brooks is a boy. He's 9. And then I have 3 stepkids. Austin is 30. McCade is 27, and Trey is 22.
Okay. So you've talked about the family on the show.
Yes.
And like how you and Justin met and all of that.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Do you want to give us like this, like the highlights?
Yeah, the highlights. Well, so I was actually married before Justin. I was married at 19 in the Mormon temple. Did all of the good Mormon girl things. I met Justin at work while I was married to someone else. Pretty scandalous. I mean, you want all the details?
Yeah, whatever you're comfortable sharing. I know you shared them on the show,
yeah,
but
I have no problem sharing. It's my story.
Yeah, give people your story, and maybe they'll feel. I feel like when people ask me all the time because they know that I know you and some of the other housewives, and they're like, "It's fake, right?" And I'm like, "No, it's pretty legit." Like they will reshoot some things to make it, a little more dramatic for television, but everything you're seeing and hearing is real life. It
really is us. It's the good, the bad, the ugly. But no, I've always been, I don't know, I've always been religious. I've always been spiritual, but when I got married, let's just take a step back and I'll give context to it all.
Okay.
When I got married the first time, an amazing man, like stellar human being. On paper, this should have been like the perfect marriage. But I was too young I was 19.
Yeah.
My parents had just started a nasty divorce. As I've shared this year, I had a pretty rough childhood that I hid from everyone. And I just, my story is that I didn't know who I was. I was just trying to check off all the boxes of what it would take for me to be happy and safe. Mm-hmm. And marrying at 19 seemed like the right choice. Yeah. So once I was married, went through the temple, all of that, it wasn't so much anything to do with my ex. It had everything to do with me. I realized that I stepped into a life that was not me. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't deal with it. So I was already trying to figure out my next move. Then I met Justin, and Justin and I were instantly connected. It was one of those situations, I don't know if you've ever met someone, but you had an instant connection.
Yeah.
That was Justin and I, and it was kind of like oh shit, because I was married, he was on his way out of a marriage. I'm not proud of it. I don't condone cheating, but that's how I met Justin. Sure. And as much as I tried to stay away from him, like I was always drawn to him. And so I got divorced. Justin and I got together. We had Bobby, and Bobby, I actually had the opposite problem of your wife. I had an IUD, your ex-wife.
And then surprise.
Yeah, I had an IUD, and I'll never forget the moment that I found out I was pregnant with her, because I had my divorce. I'd only been divorced for like 9 months or some short period of time.
Yeah.
And the last thing I wanted to do was make another huge decision or another monument moment in my life. I just wanted to date Justin and have fun for a little bit and learn more about who I was. I was working through a lot of trauma, a lot of shit. So when I found out I was pregnant with Bobby, I was like kind of not devastated, but really upset, because I was like, why God? Like, why? Yeah. I'm not ready to be a mom. So I remember sitting on the floor. Justin and I had just got home from Hawaii, or we were just going to Hawaii, and I'd taken the test, and I was like, there's no way I have an IUD. So I took 20 tests, and I'm just sitting on the bathroom floor crying. Yeah. Like, why now? Why now?
That's the universe saying, you want to test this.
Yeah.
Here you go.
And it's interesting though, because I look back and I'm like, if I wouldn't have had her, I don't know where I would be, because I'm such a free spirit and I'm like a wild child. And I really think that one of my biggest missions for this life was to be a mom. Yeah. And to create a family. And I think that Justin came in and Bobby sealed the deal. Yeah. Does that make sense? It was like Bobby being like, no, I'm coming here. Yeah. And you're not ready, but I'll make you ready. So I just remember I wasn't really, obviously I was so grateful after I had Bobby, and I love being a mom, but it was a devastating kind of holy shit, I just got divorced, dating this new guy. You know what I mean? It's just a lot.
Of course. Yeah. So here's the thing. I'm going to go back to the comment you made about cheating, because we have a tendency to just look down and judge people so easily. And I think infidelity in marriage in particular feels like such a projection, because the numbers are staggering. It's 46% of marriages have infidelity in them at some point. I mean, almost half. And so people looking down their noses, you're just like, okay.
Okay. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because I feel strongly that, you can't judge a situation, because one, we're all having a human experience. Two, I love being married, but it is so unnatural to be monogamous and cohabitate with one person. I don't care what anyone says. It is not natural.
No, you got to work. You got to work at it.
Yeah. And so when you find people that are making it work, don't look at all the shit they've been through. Look at the fact that they're still fighting to be together. Yeah. Because do you know anyone, be honest, Do you know anyone that hasn't either cheated or been cheated on?
Zero.
I know zero marriages that haven't faced it in some way, shape, or form.
Oh yeah. I mean, and it might not be like an actual physical adulterous relationship with another person, but there is like cheating that happens in other ways.
Yes.
Right. I know so many couples who struggle with either pornography or with other types of infidelity that aren't that relationship. I was just with a group of people this last weekend, and every relation, I was kind of looking around the room and admiring the relationships, and every relationship that seemed strong or you knew was strong has gone through some real shit.
Yeah.
And you need it. Like, very few relationships do I know, if any, that are really strong and have zero problems or have had zero problems.
Then they're not real.
Yeah.
Like, they're just sweeping it all under the rug and denying it. Like, the people who are strong, it's because it's real.
Yeah.
They know what they want and they fight for it, and they've gone through it and they're honest and real about it. Mm-hmm. But it's so hard to do, to like face your demons and admit where your like weaknesses are if you mess up. But yeah, cheating, it's not just about an affair or sexual. Like, think of how many people you know that carry on like side conversations with people or emotionally attached.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's, I have a buddy of mine so I'm currently single, and am trying to figure out how to date again and relationship again, because post-divorce, I've been through a few relationships that didn't work out. And every time I find myself seeing somebody who I think I like, I have a buddy who is like, okay, I know you like this girl, but go through some shit with her and then see.
Yeah.
Like, don't jump full blast into this until you've actually gone through a hard time or two with her.
It has to be, in your situation, so hard to date.
Oh, I hate it.
Because I would, if I was you, I would like really question people's motives and intentions. Like,
I don't trust anybody.
Yeah. But so how do you date?
Well,
is it mostly setups?
It has to be. So, and here's,
besides me drunk texting you, trying to get you to hang out with my friend.
I'm always happy to do that. Drunk texts from you are my favorite.
Come to the break. My single girlfriends are here.
It's about my favorite thing in the world. When I moved here from Texas, I was, the new guy in town, and I was like, nobody knows me. I'll get on some apps and online date. And I did. That's how the first girl I dated when I came out here, we met on Tinder. And since this last relationship of mine ended, I have realized this is going to sound very conceited, and it's not meant to be conceited at all. It comes from a humble place, but I'm too big of a deal now to get on a dating app.
Yeah.
Because everybody on there will know who this guy is, because I've put my friggin' face on a billboard for the last 5 years, and I'll be swiping left and right on patients all day. I can't, that's going to cross some ethical boundaries at some point. I can't do that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
especially when you're like the doctor in Utah, like everyone's coming to you.
I can't meet anybody that's outside of a setup. It really is. 'Cause I don't go sit at a bar and troll a bar. And so it's setups or people who I, develop relationships with or know. And that's all you can do. It's hard.
Yeah, I can't imagine. But have you heard of that exclusive dating app that's like for celebrities? Mm-hmm. Have you considered getting on that?
No.
You should, because it's like super verified and.
See, but what happens when they look at my profile and they're like, "You're not good looking enough"?
Oh my God! Why would you even say that?
I'm teasing.
I can't think of what it's called right now. Is it Rhea? Maybe, I don't know. But you should
Something
look
like
into getting on it.
There's one called The League.
The League,
which is like a verified place.
I think that the one I'm thinking of, it's called Rhea, and you have to have a referral to get on. But I have a friend that's on it that could refer you.
Huh. So for me, dating is, going back to what I said, it's hard to trust anybody.
Yeah.
And it's also hard to here's my pattern. And this is actually something I'm trying to break out of right now.
Oh, I love patterns.
Yeah. I have post-divorce, I have constantly gone right into the very next relationship that comes along. And I don't ever give myself time to be comfortable alone and with me. And so since this last breakup, I've been very consciously trying to force myself to be alone. And that sounds like an easy thing to do. It is hard.
How's that going?
I'm getting better. I'm getting better. And it's hard. People are like, well, why are you so scared of what don't you want to face? And for me, I don't know.
Do you feel like it's just a learned behavior? Like you got married so young, you went on a mission, right? So you from a young age, you've always had companionship and like that codependency on someone. Do you think it's that, or do you think it's
not just that? I think that's very much part of it. It's that. And it's also that I know what a really good relationship looks like and feels like. So people assume, they're like, oh, you got divorced, that must have been 10 years of hell. Well, no, like we had 7+ years of a really beautiful relationship and a really beautiful
great
marriage.
Relationship now too, right?
We do. We had to build to that. I mean, we went through hell, but now we very much get along and we co-parent really, really well together. But knowing like what that really good relationship feels like, when I plan out a night to be alone, right? I'm like, I'm going to go home. I'm going to pour a glass of wine. I'm going to make dinner. It'll sound great in the morning. I'm like, I'm going to do this by myself. And then halfway through the day, I'm like, oh, but God, it's so much better like with somebody and with somebody that I really care about. And so I'll invite somebody over.
Yeah.
And give up on me. So I'm breaking that habit.
It's because, that is a habit, but I also understand that like you want to experience it with someone. It makes life more meaningful and more enjoyable. But I think that at the end of the day, I love the work that you're doing because I have learned personally, like we come into this earth alone, we leave alone.
Yeah.
Like you're going to have to like be okay with who you are, what's in your head, what's in your heart.
Yeah.
And I think it's so easy to like lean on something or someone to make us happy.
Yeah.
So I totally get that. But also at the same time, the biggest part of life is enjoying experiences with people.
Absolutely. And one of my biggest kind of habits that I've been breaking and understanding, this has been like 2+ years of therapy, is not defining myself by the bad choices I've made in life. And I've had really good therapists, really good friends help me realize that me at my core, like I'm a really good person and that's who I am. When I stray from that and make some bad decisions, that hurts and that puts me kind of into a more chaotic state and I feel anxious and or I'm not as happy as I am. And it's because I'm straying from that core of who I am as a person, a really good person.
So how do you get yourself back to that? When you stray, what are your like indicators or like, how do you get yourself back on track? Because in therapy, I've learned too, that the past literally doesn't matter. It's so what? If I'm shining a light on it, then everyone's going to see it.
Yeah.
But I work on that too, like forgive myself and move forward. But how do you get yourself back on track? Because for me, when I spiral, even if it's just an emotional spiral of like beating myself up, being really hard on myself for past choices, it's hard for me to get back into that like positive mindset.
It's been a struggle for me. That's something I really struggle with, is getting back as well. Because I go down those same spirals of, I'm a piece of shit. I can't believe I did this. And you just focus on it and spiral down. And so I journal. I try to, when I do things alone, I do actually get in a better space. So I'm actually glad you brought this up. Oh my gosh. Like,
here we go.
Being alone is one of the things that does this is like a total light bulb for me. Living in integrity, also really, really helps. Like being radically in radical integrity with myself and with others.
I like that. Radical integrity.
One of the things that Jimmy, who you know, has taught me, and that he may be the very best person in the world at this, is giving himself an overwhelming amount of grace. And the way he does that is he imagines God up there just laughing at him. Like, he knows God loves him, and he knows he loves him unconditionally. And so when he makes a mistake or screws up or makes somebody mad, he just imagines God up there being, friggin' Jimmy, put this thing out there on Facebook again. What an idiot. Love him. Yeah. And that helps him kind of move on and be like, yeah, I'm going to keep on trying to be the very best I can, though. That's helped me.
Yeah, you have to show yourself love. In all of my therapy, I mean, I do therapy. I do also I have like a spiritual counselor. I do a lot of spiritual healing as well, and energetic healing. And one of my biggest weaknesses is allowing space for me to show myself love. And it's the same thing that we're talking about, same thing that Jimmy is doing, right? With when he imagines God laughing at him. But something that I've learned over the last year really is you can ask to feel God's love. You can ask to feel your higher power's love, but you have to be alone and present and open.
Okay.
Like,
God, see, you're just hitting me. Like, I gotta be, like, this is why I gotta be alone.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like, being alone doesn't mean, when I think of being alone, I think it's just more of you're being present and open to receiving higher power. And you want to live life at your highest level, right?
Yeah.
So
tell me some of the things that you do in those moments.
Yeah. So in those moments, I try to just get really still. Like, I'm a busybody and I'm constantly on the go. I'm really busy.
Yeah.
And always something, like, my phone's vibrating. How many phone calls have you heard? Like, you're the same way. But I try to just put it all out. For me, something I like to do is I read for just a little bit, just to, like, focus my brain and calm down. And then I just sit, and I have learned how to, it's my new form of prayer. I call upon a higher power, or source is what I say, just like a prayer. And I envision light. So I envision literally my body being surrounded in a light bubble.
Yeah.
And I work a lot with my chakras. So I go through all my chakras and really check into where I am. And then at that point, I'm usually calm enough and open enough. Then I ask higher power to protect me, like allow a safe space for me to open up and receive your love. And I literally it's just like a prayer meditation. Everyone does it in their own way. But I lately have just been saying, like, thank you for loving me. I always give the universe, I always give God, I always give higher power source an immense amount of gratitude, because when you live in that gratitude and abundance state, you get it back.
Yeah.
What you put out, you get back. And I think sometimes no one likes the needy friend that's like me, right? So I don't think that universe or God, like, I think it works both ways. Like, if you find one thing to be thankful for and lead with that, then I literally just sit there, and in moments where I really need it, I'll say, I just need to feel love.
Yeah.
Please let me feel your love. And I always see like a gold light, and I feel like I'm receiving love from a higher power.
I love it. That's a beautiful meditation.
Yeah. And you always say thank you.
Yeah. I truly believe that, my history, and I've talked about this a little bit on the podcast, is I was raised in the Mormon church, very spiritual, did a Mormon mission, and like really did it. Like, I wasn't just checking off boxes and going. I actually remember telling my mom, I worked up the courage at 19 to tell her I'm not going. And I was terrified, because when you're like, you grow up in Utah and decide not to go on a mission,
that's a big deal.
It's like social suicide, because nobody assumes that you made that choice. Everybody assumes, well, he must not have been worthy to go.
You must have sinned.
Yeah, must have sinned. And so I remember, like, just I was convinced I didn't didn't want to. It wasn't for me. I wanted to get started on school, wanted to go to medical school. And I went up to her room one day, and my parents were divorced when I was 16. So it was just her. And I was like, Mom, not going to do it. Not going to go. And I was waiting for her to just be upset or to be sad or to convince me. And in maybe the very best moment of parenting ever, she was just like, okay, it's your choice.
Oh, wow.
And I went down to my room and I was like, God damn it.
That's not how you thought it was going to go.
That is not how I thought it was going to go. And it forced me to really dig deep into what I wanted. And so I ended up going, and it was what I wanted to do. And it was, and I think there are a lot of missionaries like that. I also think there are a lot of missionaries that are checking off a box and going because it's expected of them. Mm-hmm. And so, boy, when I spent 2 years in Russia, and I gave it everything I had, and have never regretted it. But after that, came home and have been excommunicated twice now.
Twice?
From
did
the
you
Mormon
go back?
Church. I did. I got excommunicated right before my marriage, and then went through all the steps to get back into the church. Got rebaptized by my ex-father-in-law. And when I went back to the temple, it was right after Isabel was born. So we got sealed.
Did you do it for you, or did you do it for the family? That
one was for me. So honestly, the first time I got excommunicated, I left that, it was that behavioral council or disciplinary council. I left the disciplinary council and went straight to Deseret Book, because I still really fully believed in the church. And I was like, okay, I screwed up, but I'm going to get through this. And there's got to be a book at Deseret Book that talks to me about how to get through excommunication. Nothing. And I literally thought that it was my mission in life to write a book on that process, like getting excommunicated and getting back into the church. I still have notes. Like, I started writing this book
there's still a need
on the process. And I went through all the steps. Started going back to church until I was able to take the sacrament again, and then was able to get baptized again. And my ex and I were sealed in the temple right after Isabel was born. And so she came in, and it was beautiful. And I was, again, I was fully in for years. When we went to medical school, I was the kid who didn't drink, didn't go to the bars. I taught gospel doctrine at our ward in Texas. I was fully in and was back in and had gotten over this huge deal. Then I got excommunicated again right after we separated and before we got divorced. And at that point, I remember going back to church the next day, and I sat down next to this family that I had known for years. And somebody whispered something to the other person. Like, I can't remember if it was husband to wife or wife to husband. And they got up and moved their whole family. And I was devastated.
Yeah, that's enough to rock your core.
I sat there for a minute, couldn't take it, went out to my car and just started sobbing. And at that point I said, you know what? I'm not fighting for this. I'm out. But I also didn't want to be the guy who left the church because he was offended by somebody. And so I started researching and studying and trying to figure out what I really believed. And at the end of the day, for me, I didn't believe it anymore. And I've always been grateful for it in my life. And I have a very deep love for that part of my life and for that culture and for those people, because they're my people. It took me a minute to get there. Like, I went through some angry phases. How long ago was that? That was 6 years ago. And it took a minute to get to a healthy place with it. But
well, you did it faster than I did. It took me a decade.
Did it? Mm-hmm. And my whole point of that story is, when I left the second time, the thing I missed the most was my spirituality. because I found myself before every surgery, like praying. And I was like, who am I praying to? I don't even know if I believe in God anymore. And I've gotten to a point now where for me, I pray every day. And I've realized that prayer is nothing more than an expression of gratitude. And so just like you're saying, we pray to, and for me, it's the same thing. Source, higher power, me, it's not, for me, it's not a guy with a beard in the sky, but it's, and when I pray, it's just an expression of gratitude. So I love asking to feel that love, because that's something that I think I can do.
Yeah, it's something that you can ask for, and it's something that you can receive.
Yeah. Tell me, so your process, you had a decade process.
Yeah. So after,
tell me about that.
So when I had my disciplinary council, they actually...
Was this post the Justin situation?
Yeah.
Okay.
So all the way back to when I was trying to get divorced. I had made the decision. I put both men through hell because I went back and forth for a while. And it was really hard for me to make up my mind because I had eternal marriage. I had eternal damnation with a man that's almost 20 years older than me. So it was really complicated for me. And I'm like, 21 at this point? 22? Yeah. So I finally made up my mind, and I decided I am going to divorce my ex-husband and be with Justin. And I went into the stake president council, which is like 12 men or something crazy. Yeah. And I sit down and I say everything that I had done. Talked about how I was having an affair. I talked about how I questioned Joseph Smith. I don't think I have a testimony anymore. I talked about how the temple freaked me out. I just laid it all out. I put everything on the table. And they said to me that I'd be forgiven if I went back to the temple the next day.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, like, did you hear what I just said? Like, we just spent 2 hours talking about everything that I have done. That is actually, you should excommunicate me on the spot. And they said, if you go to the temple tomorrow with your ex-husband, you'll be forgiven. So I did it. So I gave Justin whiplash one more time and said, just kidding. I'm staying in this situation. I went to the temple the next day. And when I was in the temple, I just felt like the biggest hypocrite. I just felt so... I didn't have a good feeling. Yeah. And it was more than guilt and shame, because obviously I already felt those things, but it was like, this isn't you. This is icky. I felt more of a fraud in that situation than sneaking around with Justin. So I walked out of the temple and I was just like, I can never go back in there. That just solidified that this is not the right choice. Then I finally went through with the divorce and asked to be excommunicated, asked to leave the church. They wouldn't let me because I didn't own the right to make that decision because I had been sealed in the temple. My priesthood leader had to give me permission.
Oh my gosh.
And so I don't know. I just let it rest for a minute. So Justin was excommunicated. Justin didn't even go to his disciplinary council. His ex-wife did.
Okay.
She went and told everything that he was doing. He was excommunicated without even going. Here I am confessing of my sins, and they won't let me go. So fast forward, I just barely got my resignation letter this year. So I had tried multiple times, wrote multiple letters to the headquarters of the church. They would never release me. They'd never take my name off the church. And I don't know if the paperwork was just lost in the mail or if they were even reaching out to my ex at all. Because I don't think it was vindictive on his part. He probably didn't even know. And so it was this year, 2022, that I finally went through quitmormon.com.
Okay.
And am no longer a member of the church.
I'm going to say two things. Number one, congratulations. Like I'm happy that you got through that, because that feeling of feeling like a fraud in the temple to me is less about the church and religion and more about you being true to yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it comes from, right? I think it doesn't come from, this place of, this religion is not in line with me. It's just, you're being true to yourself.
Yeah. I wasn't walking on the right path.
Yeah. Justin was who you wanted to be with. That was your truth. And the second thing I'll say is, as hard as that is, I don't even hold any animosity towards the church for the way that they reacted, because from their standpoint and in their shoes, that's a doctrine that they fully are invested in and believe. And so not releasing you, as frustrating and struggling as that was for you, they were doing what they felt like was the most eternally beneficial thing for you. Well, we got to save this girl. We got to not let her throw away these eternal covenants.
It was hard for me to look past the fact that I was a woman, though, and didn't have the same power as these men to make the decision for myself.
Yeah. I'm not saying I agree with it.
I know.
But I understand it.
Well, it's the same way that I understand why my mom is still active and why my mom still volunteers in the temple. That is right for her.
Yeah.
She believes in it. It makes her feel good.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, I've never been anti-Mormon. I've never hated the church. I've been upset with some of the members. Sure. But the hard thing for me is because it comes down to, why does it matter if your name's on the church or not? For me, it very much was me taking back that power that I felt like was taken away from me. And it goes back beyond marriage. This goes back to when I was a little kid, and I had gone to my bishop and told my bishop about some things that were happening to me, and it was never reported. It was never, so I have personal stuff that I have to get over with that. But still, after all of that, I don't hate the church. Yeah. It was important for me to no longer be a member of it because of what that means. Yeah. And to me, that means something. To the next person, they don't care if their name's on the record or not. Yeah. But to me, it means something.
Oh yeah. And that's why I love that you were able to do that.
Yeah.
I don't agree with how they did it. I understand it, but and so
it's doctrinal. Yeah. It's just doctrine.
Yeah. And so I can hold love for an understanding for both sides. But God, yeah, I'm happy for you. I am.
Yeah. But yeah, back to, I never hated or was I never read one anti-Mormon thing. I never dove into any of that. I just knew it wasn't for me.
Oh, I did. I went to a lot of it, and I was angry for a long time, and I would argue with friends, and I would try to convince them of my of what I thought was true. And I realized that when you do that, they feel attacked. Mm-hmm. They feel like their beliefs are attacked. And so you can't.
No, you can't. And in fact, I always tell Justin, because I have one friend that is so anti-Mormon. Mm-hmm. And I always tease with Justin. I'm like, I actually have less joy being around an anti-Mormon than a Mormon, because the anti-Mormon is trying to constantly convince you.
Exactly.
Of that this is bad, this is this. Where Mormons usually, once they know you're out, they don't really, few put it in your face, but for the most part, you just go on your separate ways. Yeah. But there's nothing worse than an anti-Mormon trying to convince you. I know.
Oh, it's awful.
Because I'm like, I don't want to be either. Yeah. I just want to move on with my life.
Yeah. I remove myself from those conversations.
Yeah. So Justin has been diving into it a lot lately, since probably 2020. Mm-hmm. Because he's a little further behind on what his belief system is. I got to my belief about God, about universe, about higher power, spirituality faster than Justin, just because I was already on that path. Mm-hmm. But he now has been listening to all of John Dillon's Mormon stories, all of those, and to him, it's turning over this new leaf of, wow, I didn't know that all of this was out there. And I'm like, I didn't have to read it. I just knew.
Yeah. A lot of people are more, I'm more like Justin. I needed to know all the things, because it's easier for me to know the things than it is to listen to my own intuition in my own heart. And so once I know all the things, then I can be like, oh, this is true.
Do you still go and support like your nieces and nephews or any family or friends that choose to get baptized? Or
1,000%.
Yeah,
And both of my kids are baptized. And I was present for both of those baptisms and fully support it. And they know, my kids know where I stand. And my kids also know that I fully support anything that they want to do. If they have the option to attend church on Sunday if they want to, and I will absolutely support it. I'm not going to go with them, but I'll get them there. I'll pick them up. And if my son, when he was 18 and wanted to serve a mission, I 1,000% support it. I want them to be able to make the decision though. That's important to me, is that they make a decision that they want and that they don't feel forced into anything.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because I went to my niece's baptism. I didn't go to the baptism. I went to the luncheon. And I got called out for that.
Dude, by who?
Justin.
Oh, for...
Yeah, because he's uncomfortable with it. He's like, I'm not going to go to a 8-year-old's. Like, how does she know this is what she wants? And I'm like, I know. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
But this is what they believe. This is their family unit is based on this. And she's making the decision. And whether she knows what that means or not, she's making the decision. And I'm her aunt. And just because I have different beliefs, I'm not going to project those onto her.
Yeah.
Do I want to go like scoop her out of the water? Maybe. But it's her choice, you know? Yeah. And I will say I've noticed a big shift in my family specifically, and a lot of Mormons around me. People are starting to open up. Mm-hmm. And like let go of the stuff that I think you and I had to deal with as kids. Mm-hmm. Like the thing, I will say this, Utah Mormons, it's like we're built to look for sin. We're built to watch each other and look for sin. It's very obvious if you're wearing your garments, if you're drinking coffee, if you're in church, if you're taking the sacrament, right? Mm-hmm. And I've noticed people are not doing that as much anymore.
Yeah,
I see a lot of my Mormon friends don't even wear their garments all day, or they'll go to Starbucks now. And
yeah. There's a shift towards just being a good person and focusing less on the negative and more on the positive. I think that's a worldwide thing. I don't think that's a Utah specific thing, but I think more and more, and I think social media has really helped with this. People are realizing the importance of seeing the positive and rather than focusing on the negative.
Yeah. We just got to get the progression for the LGBTQ community up to par.
Absolutely.
That's my biggest thing now is a lot of my close friends and people I love.
Yeah. And you know, I just last week, one of my close patients we recorded, and we're going to release her podcast episode in a week or two. We're going to release their podcast episode in a week or two. So they are non-binary. And I got a call from this person's mom on the day after Halloween. And so they're a friend of mine, but also a patient. We did so they are a female to male transgender patient, and we did a mastectomy surgery. So we basically took their breasts off and gave them more of a masculine chest. And I don't know the details of what happened. Mom wouldn't tell me, but something happened where all of their friends decided we're going to bully this person to the point where they were having suicidal thoughts. And Mom called and told me the story, and I just lost it. I mean, you know my relationship with my patients. You are a patient. And just to hear that this person was bullied over just because of who they are. So all I wanted to do was rally and help this person. So that's what we're going to do. A bunch of my nurses and staff are going to, so this patient has a tattoo parlor that they're opening up.
Very cool.
A bunch of my staff are going to go get a tattoo from them. Put them on the podcast. We're going to advertise their tattoo parlor and push that and just be a support. Because at the end of the day, whether you understand the LGBTQ community or not, is not important. What's important is that you're showing these people love, because that's all they need. All they need is somebody to love them.
Well, am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, they're fucking people.
Yeah.
They're human beings.
Yeah.
And it's like no different than me, you, them, she, he. It is just an orientation of your sexual preference. And I get so angry when I see these hate crimes because, like, can you imagine, Nick, if you were that person?
No.
And just because you love who you love, you are now being pushed out of bars, being beat up. I mean, shot at.
Yeah, it's terrible. And at the end of the day, all they need is love.
Or at the least, just ignore them. Mm-hmm. At the least, just walk away. Why spew hate, you know?
Yeah.
With any hate crime, it's like, I don't understand that. Yeah. Like, why don't you just ignore it then?
I agree. Just love.
Yeah. Just be fucking nice, please.
It's always the answer. Love is always the answer. It sounds really silly and really woo-woo, but it's the answer.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people, until you have a experience at some level, someone you love go through it, it's hard for some people to get it.
Yeah, that always seems to at least change minds. When there's somebody close to you that goes through, and then you're like, oh, now I can see. And I think if we really realize that all of humanity is close to us, then it would be an easier thing to just love everybody. And that's all they need.
So what do you think it's going to take to get the church to come to terms and open up equal rights for LGBTQ in the church? Do you think it's even possible because it's not biblical and it's not doctrine?
I don't know. I mean,
would Joseph Smith have to come back down and rewrite
No, I think
the Book of Mormon and Pearl of Great Price?
I think that when religion, whether it's the Mormon church or any other church, I think tends to do things when it's in their best interest. Yeah. And so when they see that supporting that community is more in their interest than maintaining the line that marriage is between a man and a woman, that's when you'll see some changes. Just like they maintained the line of blacks not having the priesthood until it became apparent that that was going to hurt them more than it was going to help them. Well,
because I used to preach like to all my friends in the LGBTQ plus community, like, why, like, they don't want you, walk away. Like, why do you care? And then I took a step back and I'm like, wow, that's unfair for me to say that, because these people are born and raised Mormon. Mm-hmm. It's all they know. Like, they love it. That's their life. It's their birthright, you know, that's what they believe. So it would be very hard to want to still be involved in your community, religion, faith, but not be accepted. But I used to always say, like, why are you, like, walk away. If they don't want you, walk away. Yeah. They don't deserve you. But then it's like hard because you're born into this.
Well, and they'd be walking away from not just the religion, but I mean, everything.
Family, friends, community. And it doesn't come with a refund check.
No, it does not. It does not. Okay, I know you got to get going here soon.
Yeah, I have a tax appointment.
I know. I just had mine. I have to write a huge fucking check.
That's what I'm finding out tonight. So paying, this is after I meet with you, but if you're listening, figure out something. No,
we might cut that. We might cut some of that.
Yeah, I cut all that. I'm gonna make your job really hard. Sorry.
No, I don't do it. Dakota does. All right, so I know you've got to go, Whitney. So we're gonna kind of wrap up on these last thoughts. We didn't really talk about your plastic surgery, which I don't care. That doesn't bother me at all. What I want to hear from you is you've come a long way. Actually, no. I have two questions. We're going to wrap up in a second because this is something we didn't touch on that I think we should. You went from 19 years old, young, married, not understanding, not knowing, but then at 21, like 2 years later, all of a sudden you're saying, okay, I'm going to commit to this. So I'm going to guess that you still weren't ready and you still didn't know. How did you make that shift of, I'm not ready, so I'm going to make poor choices, to I'm still not ready, but I'm going to commit myself to this?
It's a really good question. I think that it doesn't matter if you're ready or not. Being consistent is what got me through it. Like consistency. So it was a mess. I mean, it's really hard, one, figuring out who you are, plus making these big commitments and that involve many people. But once I made the decision, and really once I found out I was pregnant, I decided to commit fully and stay consistent in working on myself. Mm-hmm. So I was forced to figure out, who is Whitney? What does she want? What is she going to become? Which you should do before you become a wife and a mother. But unfortunately, I had to grow up and raise myself as I was raising my baby.
See, but that's key right there. I think you throwing everything into yourself is key. A lot of people, in my opinion, would have answered that question the opposite way, saying, oh, I threw everything into my kids. I threw everything into my husband. And you did not. You said, no, I threw everything into me and being true to me. And I think you're blowing my mind.
Yeah. Well,
so this is like a therapy session for me. Like literally had this conversation with my life coach this morning about why am I afraid of like focusing on me? And that's why focusing on you helps everybody else in your life.
Well, if you look at it this way, of course I focused like everything a lot on Justin and Bobby.
For sure.
But the thing is that I've always, for some reason, maybe it's because of my childhood, and I love my mom. I love my family, but I watched my mom not know how to put on her life mask when the airplane is going down. Mm-hmm. And I think just watching her, and this is not to shade my mom, she's a beautiful person. I just think that she did the best she could with what she knew. But I think watching her just sparked something in me that I was going to do it differently. Mm-hmm. And so, you could say there were some years that I lost myself in my marriage, lost myself in being a mom. But for the most part, I've always had the ability to connect with myself. Yeah. And I've seen what it looks like to lead without any support, or I've seen what it looks like when you're trying to save everyone else besides yourself. Yeah. The entire plane ends up going down. Yeah. But if you can take care of yourself, then you can find a solution to fix the crashing plane, right? Yeah. Like, so I've always, I don't know if it's just the way I was raised. I'm taking forever to get to the answer, but I think that's what it is. I think it's just the way, the experiences I grew up in, watching my family dynamics and just different situations I was in. I learned at an early age how to advocate and fight for myself. Yeah. And I just knew that if I was going to bring another human being into this world, I'm going to lead her. Yeah. Because it's not just my job to love her and to be her mom. It's more than nurturing her. Like, it is my job to lead my daughter and my son to success. Yeah. And that's my only goal. And trust me, I fuck up all the time. Like, there's some nights I go to bed and I just cry because I'm like, why did I freak out over that? Or why didn't I pick up on this? But like, my job is, I just want my kids to be healthy, successful human beings that love themselves. Yeah. And trust me, Justin, like, it makes sense. Like, I think people are always like, you're married to an older man. Sometimes even now I'm like, what? I'm married. Like, this is weird. Like, we've been married 13 years. Yeah. And I really think that he came into my life to support my cause. Like, because he's an independent man, super successful. I'm an independent woman, successful. But it takes a certain kind of man to support a woman that's going to be like, don't you tell me what to do. Like, I'm not gonna, like, I need to be better at like making, like asking for permission, I guess. I just have never felt like I had to.
Yeah.
But like, I'm trying to get better at like making decisions together instead of just being like, guess what? I got into graduate school. I'm going now. Cause like living with me is being married to me is like a surprise. Justin always is like, where is she going to go next? What is she going to do? But I feel so lucky because I have a man that like supports my dreams.
Yeah.
And he'll throw any resource I need, anything I need to do. Like just to come here, the podcast day, he went and picked up the kids from school for me.
Oh,
like,
nice.
you know?
He's pretty great.
Yeah.
Well, I really like him.
Yeah. I've made his life hell sometimes, but overall it's good.
Thank you so much for coming on. Like honestly, you always surprise me. I think you're one of the most authentic people I know in my life, and I love that about you. That's why I'm drawn to you and support you. And I love seeing your trajectory because it's going off.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
Thanks. I'm glad there's at least a few people that love who I am, because being a housewife and being on TV, when you're trying to be vulnerable and authentic, it's not always received. No,
it's easy to judge, but I will say, like, I know you outside of that, and I love you in both places, but I know who you are as a person, and I love you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it so much.
Thanks for coming. Thank you so much for listening to The Naked Patient Beyond the Operating Room. I'm Dr. Nicholas Howland. Please remember that every patient who appears on this podcast has consented to discuss their story and their surgery on the podcast. That way we remain HIPAA compliant. This is a free podcast. The best thing that you can do for us is to leave us a review online. Let us know what you liked. Let us know what you'd like to hear. Let us know how we can improve. If you are curious about anything related to plastic surgery, you can reach out to me on Instagram at Dr. Nicholas Howland, and I typically respond there, or you can reach us at the office at 801-571-2020, or we have an online form you can fill out at the website, www.howlandplasticsurgery.com. Any of our coordinators would be happy to help you. Thanks again for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Naked Patient podcast. Stay tuned for the next episode. Till next time.